This land has an old way of existing, an original cuisine, original flavors, an original language, original values and aesthetics that are just native to right here.
Vincent Medina and Louis Trevino are Ohlone cultural leaders. They've each helped revive an Ohlone language. They also co-founded Cafe Ohlone in Berkeley. In the spring of 2021, they led a walk in the East Bay Hills to discuss the plants, animals, and people who have long lived near this peak.
Horsetail hi hemmenya, kanakrakat Vincent Medina.
Mishiktuh ime makam, karak Louis Trevino.
What Louis and myself just shared in our respective Ohlone languages. Louis spoke in Rumsen, which is the language of Carmel Valley, and I spoke in Chochenyo, which is the native language of right here, this land that we're speaking to you from, where my family has always lived. We said, good day. My name is Vincent Medina, and I'm here with my partner, Louis Trevino, and we're the co-founders of Makam Ham and Cafe Ohlone. We're here right now in Halkin Wareb, which is where we've always been. This very specific area that our family has lived in forever, from those beginning days to where we're at today in 2021, and surely where we'll be in the future as well. Right behind us, there's a mountain that's rising. This mountain, we call it Tuushtak. That means the place of the day. Many people know this mountain today and refer to it as Mount Diablo. Just behind us, this is our most sacred peak. This mountain is where Makwara Piswi, our world, was born, as our elders teach us in beliefs that are still held close to our community today. We're taught that there was a time of a great flood, when everything in the world was covered with water, except for the two peaks of the mountain that's right behind us, Tuushtak. When the waters receded, our Creator created the world as we know it today. Our Creator ensured that there was abundance, that there was safety, that there was life that existed before humans, us, ever came onto the scene. We're taught that we're supposed to tend to this, take care of it, steward it. And for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, that's exactly what our ancestors did. Took care of this land through a series of managed burns, made sure that the abundance that we inherited only grew stronger, made sure to clear meadow spaces, see plants grow stronger that are interconnected with one another, and live a life that was full of meaning, dignity, abundance, and sophistication. Our ancestors lived well here in this area, and we're still living well here in this exact same space today. We know that when colonization came, it attempted to separate us from this space. But our ancestors were strong, and they refused to leave. Our great-grandparents and all those generations before them that were impacted by colonization, they sacrificed so that we can continue to be here today, and that our story can continue to thrive and flourish right here in the same space that we've always been. In Chochenyo language, we say, Alshipmak. We are grateful. We are grateful to be here in this beautiful place, and we're grateful every day to see this mountain that's rising right here behind us. Tuushtak, Manni Makwara Pisui, where our world was created. And in this time of spring in Chochenyo, we call it Huyukne Tiushiware, which means the earth has begun to flower on us. It's full of new growth and abundance all around. During this time of spring, our people traditionally eat a lot of greens. All of the Indian lettuces that are coming up, flowering teas that are coming up, of hummingbird sages and black sages, and fresh growth yerba buena. And this is the charishmin, which is native mint, yerba buena. Such a good, beloved plant. It makes a wonderful tea. It's calming. Our people also during springtime make flower crowns for one another, threading yerba buena throughout that. So it'd have all these smells of flower and also mint together. Nice. You can eat it as well. It's very edible. delicious. Plant right here, in Chochenyo language, we call this rore, which is our term for Indian lettuce. The Latin name of this plant is Claytonia. Sometimes people will call this miner's lettuce, and we ask people to never refer to this as miner's lettuce. A few reasons why. The first reason is that Indian people have been eating this lettuce for thousands upon thousands of years. It seems so unfair to give miners all the credit of this delicious food when it's been cultivated and stewarded by native communities here in California for so long. And miners, they cause so much harm to California Indian communities, including ours, the Ohlone people, and we want to make sure that native culture is being respected by referring to this as Indian lettuce. Or if a tribe that is nearby tells you what the name is, refer to it as that as well. So here in the Chochenyo speaking area, rore, that's our name for this Indian lettuce. It's delicious, a good thing to eat, and we want the credit for it.
This is taua and taua, nettle, stinging nettle. And it's a tea plant. It's high in antioxidants, very good for your respiratory health. It's also a traditional curative for rheumatism and arthritis. Our elders today still will hit themselves with it, and it helps the pain of arthritis. It's also, when it grows real tall and it gets older, you can use it to make a beautiful cordage after you peel off all the stingers. So at Cafe Ohlone, we will have stinging nettle tea very frequently, especially in the years when we've had these fires in California. We will often have that tea to clear our breathing passages to help us breathe well.
So this plant right here, Horsetail, I really love this plant for a lot of reasons as well. It's a very old plant. They say that back during dinosaur times that the horsetail was around. It has silica in it. If you look nowadays at fancy hair products, you see silica that's a part of it, or even sometimes horsetail. But our people always knew that this was good for keeping your hair looking nice and for beauty regimens. Ohlone people always have liked looking good. That's not something that's new either. We have a lot of stories about chirikmin, which is meadowlark. Meadowlark is famous for always having her mouth open, meaning that she's a gossip. In any depiction of meadowlark, most likely her mouth is wide open because she's always spreading the gossip. So if you ever see meadowlark, just take a close look. It might look like she's talking. So this plant right here, we love this plant very much. We call this one Sapote, which is bay laurel. It has these oils that are in it that are just so fragrant and so nice and so sweet. The tree itself, at fall time and summertime, will start to create fruits, the bay fruits, which are similar to avocados that we like to eat the flesh of. And then inside of the bay fruit, there's the bay nuts, which are these wonderful, delicious nuts that we roast and in the old way, the traditional way, make them into truffles that are stimulating and so tasty, like dark chocolate and espresso. And we traditionally eat that with a little bit of East Bay salt on a leaf of the Indian lettuce and also with a dried California strawberry as one bite. So Sapote Bay Laurel, this is a very uniquely Ohlone herb that we love, that we're always happy to see as we walk. The reason why it's called soap root is that it makes a natural soap when it gets wet. It will lather the glue of the soap root. It would be pounded down and mixed with water to make a sap or a glue that would make the handle of the soap root brush. So you take the fibers, you separate those, make them nice and uniform for the brush itself, And then after that, the glue wraps around the fibers, and then that creates the soap root brush after it hardens. And also the soap root, it can be eaten. It has a taste similar to sweet potatoes. The leaves can be steamed and eaten as well. Bolshe Rawin, beautiful soap roots. In Chochenyo language, this right here, we call it Hire Ruwai. So wood rat's house right there. Hire is our word for wood rat in Chochenyo. And Ruwai is house or home. They all have like multiple rooms inside of them. One of them is actually a leaching room where they leach toyon. They have a room that's just for a restroom. They have sleeping quarters. It's like architecturally a very interesting thing. It also reminds us just to respect the houses of others that are around, including the wood rats. Which is an interesting thing too. A lot of people in our families, including both of us, are immune to poison oak. So we don't have any reaction to it. There was an old timer in our family who passed away a while back, but he used to take the poison oak leaves just to show off and eat them. So just to show people he wouldn't get sick from it.
Poison oak is also described by a family from before as a basket material when it's very young, when the shoots are new and straight and flexible.
So here we are in Tuushtak, which means the Thule place. And right here is Rokosh, beautiful Thule Reeds. These Thule Reeds are so important to Ohlone architecture and also our traditional culture. These beautiful Thule Reeds, which are also water resistant, are used to make our walekma, our Thule boats, our ruakma, our Thule houses. They're used to make some baskets. A whole bunch of things are made from the Thule. And when we gather the Thule and we're able to construct these objects that our ancestors also built, we feel like very connected to these older ways. It's the boats that are made from the Thule. They're perfectly waterproof and they would be buoyant on the water. They insulate the houses, they keep the houses warm when it's cold outside, but also they keep them nice and chilly when it's hot outside and quiet. And also just knowing that this Thule, that it grows in abundance. It's one of those things that our ancestors can gather in huge amounts and not cause any harm to the landscape. Thule in our language, again, Rokosh. Right now we're here in Rokoshtak, the Thule place, and we're looking at some beautiful Thule that's used to make a whole range of beautiful objects that we hold dear. Acorn for us is such a traditional food. It's about a 6-month process from gathering the acorns to when it's ready to be made into soup and bread. A very long, beautiful process that involves a lot of community. But after we have the acorn flour, after it's all processed and ground and leached and made into our flour and bread and soup, it has a wonderful, sweet, nutty taste. It's so fine. It's just so delicious. There's so many different varieties of acorns, but really the acorns that are the most traditional to eat for us are black oak acorns, valley oak acorns, and tan oak acorns. The valley oak acorn is especially good for our acorn bread. The black oak acorn is especially good as a soup. In September of 2018, we opened up Cafe Ohlone in Berkeley, which became the first Ohlone restaurant in modern times. The foods that we serve at Cafe Ohlone, they're foods that have always been loved by our family right here. And these foods, they're often seasonal foods. Eating seasonally keeps our bodies in line with what's being provided by the land that's been stewarded by our people, and it's good eating. The first goal of this work, the primary goal, always being to provide a physical space for our Ohlone community. The secondary goal of Cafe Ohlone has always been to teach the public, through taste, how beautiful our culture is, how rich these ingredients are, how delicious they are, and also to teach people an honest story of some of the things that our community has lived through and ways that our community has been able to overcome challenges to still be here today. Colonization here in California is relatively recent, meaning that it just happened 240 years ago is when it started. My great-grandmother, her great-grandfather, was born in a world that was still unaffected by colonization. So it really is just a few lifespans away. But when things started to change, those changes came fast, and they came with extreme disruption and a lot of pain. In the late 1700s, the Spanish, they worked to force our ancestors into the missions. And my family's ancestors were forced into Mission San Jose and also Mission Dolores in San Francisco. And in those places, our family suffered, no question about it, where every aspect of our traditional culture was attempted to be removed. Our language was banned, our stories were banned, our religion was banned, people's names were attempted to be changed, families were attempted to be separated, and people couldn't return back to those villages, even if they wanted to. After the missions were here in California, when Americans came in the 1840s, the very first American governor of California, Peter Burnett, he said that there has to be a war of extermination against the Indian race until the race becomes extinct. And Peter Burnett's words were backed up by millions of dollars from the federal government in the state of California, that today would translate to billions of dollars, for the sole purpose of massacring Native people here in California, and a genocide that's only beginning to be acknowledged nowadays. There was a law that was passed called the Protection of the California Indians, and this law said that if there was any Native person that wasn't working for a white person, then they were seen as being a vagrant, and it was legal to keep them against their will in bondage, allowing Indian slavery here in California by the state of California itself. This landscape that we're in right now protected our family. The ridges, the canyons, the valleys that are a part of this landscape protected our family. Even during these hard times, our people looked after one another, fed one another, provided housing for one another, and also provided jobs for one another when possible. Our family didn't just accept colonization, but found ways to respond to it. My great-grandmother, Mary Archuleta, she moved directly back to right here, this area that I'm speaking to you from. And as a result of her moving back to our oldest tribal area, from the old Pleasanton Rancheria where she was born, as a result of that, this is where my family continues to be, even to this day. I want those who are listening to what I'm saying right now to associate Ohlone culture with strengths and triumphs and victories, and not losses and defeats, and often how indigenous cultures are looked at. The fact that I can be here, right where my family has always been, in this exact area that my ancestors have always been in, working to keep our culture strong, speaking my language, waking up every single day and seeing Tuushtak, a mountain where our world began. That's not loss and that's not defeat, but that's victory and that's strength. I'm always just so stunned by how beautiful it is. I've come to this space my entire life and I'm always so happy to come up here.